Well, my final court date is May 12th in Chicago. I'll be there. It's going to be a bench trial where the judge rules the final verdict. I'm facing up to 7 years for my activism after falsely being accused of aggravated assault on a peace officer at the DNC convention, August 19th, 2024. I've been dealing with this for 8 months so far, plus, and it's been hard. But I'm willing to stand for what I believe in. Even if they put me in handcuffs and walk me through that door, I'm gonna go in knowing that I stand for innocent children's lives. And so be it. Free Palestine from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. Oh.
Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you here on this Tuesday afternoon. Today, it is May 6th, 2025. Of course, I am your host, James Fauntleroy. Guys, welcome back. So good to see all of you here. Of course, this is going to be more of an abbreviated show, but I just want to make sure I present this to you because it's a very important story. But if you guys have not already, go ahead and give a like to the stream. This helps me out with the algorithm. Thank you very much so that we can be able to cover more stories like this and reach more people. So thank you so very much for that. Also, if you guys like to, you guys can also join my Substack so you guys can get email notifications whenever I go live, upload clips, or write any articles. So you have that there. And also, if you guys would like any video reactions or any video responses, you guys can go to QBounty at qbounty.com/Jaybefaunt. So thank you very much for that. Also, just to say a hello to everybody that's joining on YouTube, Twitter, and Rumble. So good to have you joining us today. By the way, if you guys have not already, go ahead and give a like. And while we're at it, just a blanket hello to everybody that's watching today. Why are we here today? Well, we're going to be having a very good discussion. We're going to be talking about arrested for opposing genocide. This is going to be a story that you guys are going to want to hear because a lot of times we hear the stories secondhand or third hand from other people. Well, we're going to hear it firsthand from one who was actually arrested for opposing genocide. Is this a free speech issue, or is this just an issue of law and order? So let's get into it. We're going to introduce Steve O to the stage. Thank you very much for joining, Steve. So nice to have you.
Thanks for having me, James. I appreciate you. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Despite the circumstances, I am doing very well. Thank you very much. So, Steve, one of the things that if you can walk us through the beginning of, first of all, what got you in, why such a fervent interest in supporting Palestine and Palestinians in this fight that we see going on right now?
Absolutely. Well, first off, let me say that I've always, throughout my young adult life, tried to stand for the oppressed people of the world. And I currently believe some of the most oppressed people in the world are the Palestinian people. Sorry. So I started my activism through this movement through video games. I was a lot like other people. I'd seen some documentaries in the past before that October 7th date, and I knew that the Palestinian people were heavily oppressed without knowing the full story behind it. When that date happened, a lot like other people, I was a little confused at first, and through friends and through TikTok and doing our research and seeing live videos of the families and what's happening, we come to find out that the truth is that they're committing a full-on genocide, is what I believe, and ethnic cleansing. And currently there hasn't been food or medicine, anything going in for over 9 weeks. But I just knew I had to do something more for my own sanity, even. You know what I mean? I'm a father, and I want my daughters to be proud of me and to grow up in a world that's better for them and all the children of the world. So I took it to the streets protesting. I do believe I was one of the first solo protesters in America. And a solo protest can just be just as strong as a 10,000 man march at times, because it's one person opposing fascism, oppression, and genocide. Hope I answered that okay to start it off at least.
No, that's great. Thank you very much for that. Did this interest start either before or after October 7th?
After October 7th is when it really kicked off. Before that, I was mainly opposing Trump, anti-cop, standing for Black Lives Matter, women's rights. This one really woke me up. It woke the world up. The Palestinian people resilience and their willingness to survive through these atrocities have inspired me, and I believe millions around the world at this point. And it inspired me to do more, because my daughter has a genetic bone disease. I've seen the pain and fear in her eyes, and it's the same pain and fear in the children of Gaza's eyes, the children of Palestine, and the oppressed people of the world. And that's why I stand up for them, because I'm a father. It has nothing to do with my religion. It has to do with humanity.
Mm.
Wanting to keep humanity alive, you know?
Yeah, definitely. So walk us through what led to the arrest. Of course, this was the Democratic National Convention last year in 2024. Really, it was the coronation of Queen Kamala, so that she could be the official nominee, not just de facto, but the official nominee of the Democratic Party. Can you walk us through what was going on and how you got to that point of being arrested and being charged?
Okay. So we were, it was actually our first day of protest. I had a small protest the day before, because I'm in California. I flew out to Chicago to be there, because I felt like it was important. Before that, I had been to Washington, D.C. I've been to Washington, D.C. Twice this year, once for when Netanyahu was there, staying at the Watergate Hotel, and once for the Trump inauguration, actually. I stood there with two other people in a sea of about 1,000, 3,000 red hats, standing up for free Palestine with my Palestinian flag, and trying to tell people that, hey, they're not actually for us. You know what I mean? We're more oppressed. Our freedom of speech doesn't matter. But getting back to Chicago here, it was very heavily censored and controlled protest. They had Secret Service, the blue helmets, the peace officers, Chicago PD. They flew cops in from around the country to be riot officers, and because they're so afraid of freedom of speech. But we were in a park where you could see the DNC convention, uh, maybe a mile in the distance. That's how close they let us get to it. Multiple fences, thousands of officers for a couple hundred protesters that were there at the time, maybe a little more. Um, there were some people that had broken through some barricades at one point. Well, there's more and more barricades to go, and we were in there at one point. They told us to clear out. We cleared out. They were pushing over journalists, and I was one of the last people to helping journalists out, saying, "Hey, you can't. You're telling them to get out. I'm trying to help them out." We got pushed back into the park area. They're telling us that they're going to clear the park out, and they started to form a line of police officers. And before the line was formed, I saw a young man run behind the line before it was formed, and before they even said you couldn't go behind this line, right? And he starts dancing. He just starts dancing right there, and
Uh-oh. Are you there, Steve? It's like his camera went off. He'll be back in a second, but this is actually an interesting story. It's because a lot of times people are trying to exercise their free speech rights, their First Amendment rights. And for some reason, it's like whenever you try to exercise your First Amendment rights, it gets trampled on. Hang on, let me bring them back in. All right.
I'm
All
so
right.
sorry.
That's okay.
Credit card companies called me, and it went off for some reason once I deleted the phone call. So
Gotcha.
what I was saying,
There was a guy that was dancing. Yeah.
right? He was dancing. He got brutally tackled by multiple officers, picked up like an animal by all four of his limbs, and dragged off for doing nothing. Keep in mind, it made me upset. So I expressed my freedom of speech even louder. I'm yelling. I'm saying, "Hey, you can't do this." I'm live streaming on TikTok, so people can see from around the world, see what's happening. And I'm trying to get a good shot. You know what I mean? And I'm saying, "Hey, you can't do that. Look at what they're doing to our friend." I start walking up the line of police officers right there, and
Mm-hmm.
again saying, "Hey, I don't like what's happening. This is assault. This is fascism." He was just using his freedom of speech. I continued to walk up. Um, Apparently, at one point there was a protester that walked in front of me and put his flag in front of me, which made me kind of duck down a little bit. And they said that my elbow had brushed up against an officer when that happened. He jacks me under the ribs. I was like, whoa, whoa. I said, I don't even know why it happened. I had some adrenaline going at the time, and I was just like, hey, hey. And I just continue about my day. So free Palestine, they can't do that. 30 seconds later, apparently or 20 seconds later, the officer, the captain from down the hill, about 30 feet back, down a hill, claims that he witnessed me assault that officer. That 25 seconds later, he breaches through the officers, dives at me, pulls me in. The officers, they don't even know what's happening. They just turn and start hitting and kicking. They brutally assaulted me. I have scars on my legs that are going to be there for the rest of my life. They had about 700 pounds of officers jump on top of me. And I'm going to say something that's embarrassing right now, but it's the truth because the truth is important, right? When 700 pounds gets pushed on top of your body, it made me have like an accident in my pants even. And by the way, they made me sit in that for 7 hours, something like that, before they even allowed me to even clean myself. They hauled me off. I didn't even know what I had been arrested for. They told me it was disorderly conduct at first, and then disturbing the peace, and then I like to be a funny guy sometimes, and even all that happened while they're taking pictures of me before they load me into a paddy wagon. I'm like, oh, get my good side. Oh, they're like, oh, we got.
Probably a busy guy. Getting a phone call again. Okay, he'll be back. And so, wow, that is quite the ordeal. I'm telling you.
I'm sorry. It's every time. I'll get a better way for next time.
Yeah.
But and then they threw us in the back of the paddy wagon. It was me and that one guy, right? During that time period, they had us handcuffed behind our back. They had it so tight. I'm telling you, my arm shoulders were feeling like they were popping out of their sockets. Okay, I had to complain multiple times. Can you please just loosen them up a little bit? Like I can't feel my arms. They were being pretty cruel about it as well. They asked me if I needed medical attention, which I was like, yeah, my legs are bleeding. They're like, yeah, but do you need an ambulance and go to the ER? Is that what you need? I'm like, well, technically no, but they're like, all right, then fine. They left us in the back. They decided when they drove us to the Chicago Police Department, which by the way, Kamala Harris toured herself. It was an old, decrepit underground jail that they used to run back in the day, and they gave it a fresh paint job, and they still left the rats and the bugs and the blood on the wall, by the way. But and she toured it herself to see how wonderful they're doing and all that. That's where a lot of our tax dollars went, by the way. And they purposely drove like they were in a Batman movie or something. There's nothing to hold on to. Your arms are behind your back. The best thing you can do is press up against the wall with your feet. And I was falling all over the place. I felt like my shoulders were popping out of socket. Like it was bad. And then when I got there, they eventually they eventually amped up the charges to aggravated assault on a peace officer, which is 7 years in prison if I'm convicted. And I also got to say my court case got pushed back to 6/11. It's not the 12th of this month anymore because the officer in question that's pressing charges wasn't going to show up. Okay, so we got pushed back to 6/11 at this point. But while I was in there, multiple officers. I know I didn't do anything wrong, but when you're in jail and you have 20 different detectives and officers coming up to you saying that the officer you assaulted is actually in the emergency room and we don't know if he's going to make it. He might die and you're never going to see your daughters again. You're never going to get out of here. It was a big, fun joke to them, and it can be pretty traumatic. Even though I know I didn't do anything wrong, I know that they can be so corrupt that they could just convince the world I did, or it took him a while to even get that officer to say that he would press charges because I didn't find out that I was in for aggravated assault on a peace officer until in Chicago there's no bail. You go right from there and you go right into your court hearing where they said that I was facing up to 7 years in prison for aggravated assault. I'm like, aggravated assault? For something that could have maybe been a slight accident of like, oh, that would have been like, hey, my bad type thing, 7 years, 7 years. And it's a bench trial, no jury, where the judge is going to look at the evidence that we present him and decide whether or not I'm guilty or not. Yeah. I can't I can't hear you for some reason.
Oh, sorry,
Okay,
I was muted.
no problem.
Wow, this is. I'm at the point right now where also I'm thinking about, because when you think about it's not just the police that are also corrupt. It's also really the criminal justice system itself. We have judges. You have um, district attorneys, attorney generals, who also are, for the Zionist cause, and the mere fact that you were there opposing, and what the Democratic Party was greenlighting. When people say that, oh my goodness, the Democratic Party is so soft on crime, blah blah blah, and it's like, wait, have you not seen the protests that have been essentially squashed by Joe Biden?
Yes,
It's no different than what Donald Trump would do.
absolutely. Oh, I was in Washington, D.C., where, Joe Biden's president, because when Netanyahu came and I was brutally assaulted by police officers there as well. An officer threw his bicycle into me as I was running by his bicycle. They had a chain of bicycles. Did you know that they sharpened the pedals on their bicycle into spikes? I got a scar on my leg that it looks like, this is almost a year ago. It looks like a dog took a bite out of my leg. I didn't know until 3 hours later. But right after that happened, I got tear gassed right to the face. A full bottle. If you've ever been tear gassed to the face with a full bottle, um, as close as I am to the screen right now, the pressure is so high that it pushed my eyeballs back into my head and they rolled around. They do the Z shape, so it gets the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. But like I was sweating. It was a hot day out there. The chemicals, it soaks into your skin. I started having a chemical burn all over my body. Thankfully, this is in Washington, D.C. A medic came up and grabbed my arms and says, follow me, follow. I can't see. All you can do is scream at that point. And I'm just going through a crowd of people where we go over to where there's a tree and it's my skin is so hot. You know when you got to, well, never mind. When a white person has a sunburn, uh, you can feel the sun beating on your skin more than it would. So it was like that, but I could feel the cold of a tree off in the distance, the shade, and I crawled underneath the shade of a tree because the sun was so intense while I was getting treated, with concussion grenades going off around us. And I'm like, this is how it ends, huh? This is how they get me. I did not get arrested in Washington, thankfully, but
According to international law, that is a war crime to use gas on a civilian population.
oh, that they were out of control. They were even hitting their own officers in the back of the head with chemical gas. And I was also assaulted by a Zionist that day, right in front of officers too. He hit me in the back of the head with a megaphone. Boom.
And did
Counter
anything happen to
protesting.
the Zionist?
Say again?
Did anything happen to that Zionist that hit you in the back of the head with the megaphone?
I mean, I punched him in the face right in front of officers. He fell to the ground, and I looked at the officers. This really happened. 13 riot officers right in front of me, geared out. I said, that was self-defense, right? I said, right? And three of the officers went. I said, all right, then. I'm going back to the protest. Free Palestine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I hope your fist is okay.
I know,
Getting in
right?
contact with the
Oh.
Zionist.
And I had a couple women in the movement tell me, get out of there, keep moving. And I have a rule in any movement, and I think every guy especially should listen to this. If two women in a movement tell you to do something, just do it. Like, all right, no problem, especially if they're, indigenous in that movement. So.
Yeah, definitely. So, as far as this is concerned, this should be a cautionary tale to what we're dealing with, because a lot of times, what would you say to a lot of the people who said that if we got Donald Trump, things would be worse for the Palestinians? They will be worse for those of us who are protesting. You were really in the belly of the beast when it comes to how the police were treating you. Okay. Are you back? Okay. All right, let's move that back. Okay.
So sorry for the technical difficulties.
No, that's okay. But you were in the belly of the beast when it comes to how the Biden administration really was treating people. Uh, what would you say to people who said that, oh, well, Donald Trump would be so much worse? What would your reaction to them be?
We've experienced a lot of this through this movement. I want to say that I used to be so deep in it that I used to say blue no matter who. I used to say
Wow.
that, and I can't believe I even fathomed that at that point, because it got to the point at the election. I knew no matter what, no matter who was going to be president, either Kamala or Trump, that I was going to have to wake up and fight for a free Palestine no matter what, because we've come to learn now that the Joe Biden administration never once even pushed for a ceasefire, never even talked about it. It was never on the table, while they lied to the American people saying that they did. I truly believe that the left wing and the right wing are the same broken wing of the same fascist bird. Every single one of our U.S. presidents has kissed that wall and dedicated their allegiance to the Zionists. It's not the Jewish people, because the Jewish people and Zionism are two different things. I love Jewish people. We protest side by side with our Jewish brothers and sisters, demanding for a free Palestine, and not in their name, because
Mhm.
Judaism is a religion of peace.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Because a lot of times people will, a lot of times people will conflate the two. Um, and I'm gonna be honest with you, there's some people who consider themselves to be anti-war. You have to be careful not to fall into the anti-Semitic realm, meaning that if you see Zionists, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's Jewish, because there are more Christian Zionists than there are Jewish Zionists. And there's a lot of Zionists who are not Jewish at all. Joe Biden being one of them, Kamala Harris being another. People like Barack Obama, Hakeem Jeffries, Nancy Pelosi, none of them are Jewish, but they are Zionists. And so people need to use your words carefully and differentiate between what a Zionist is and what a Jewish person is. And there are many Jewish people who are anti-Zionist who I've had on the show. Of course, I've had friends of the show, Gaijin Girl. I've had Lee Camp as well. I've had quite a few, Jewish voices. Of course, Dr. Joel Stein as well.
I've met her and talked to her multiple times on TikTok even. It was great. I was a big supporter of the Green Party for sure.
Yeah. I was actually one of the co-press directors for her campaign last year.
Wow.
But so there's a lot of people who are Jewish who, when they said, never again, they meant it, which I have a huge amount of respect for. And I just want to share what you were speaking about earlier, especially in regards to Joe Biden. This was actually from Drop Site News. Let me just enlarge this really quick so everybody can see. It says, report, Biden officials admit that they never pressured Israel for a ceasefire as Israeli leaders boast of playing Washington. This is from Michael Herzog, says, God did the state of Israel a favor that Biden was the president during this period. We fought in Gaza for over a year, and the administration never came to us and said, ceasefire now. It never did. And that's not to be taken for granted. So basically, ultimately, it was, the Biden administration was saying that they were working for a ceasefire. And then you even had AOC herself say that Kamala Harris is working tirelessly for a ceasefire. But we all know that was, a pile of bullshit. And so as we can see right now that this is being revealed, that a lot of people are now looking at the Democratic Party and saying, you're no different than the Republican Party. You're no different than Donald Trump. You're no different than MAGA, because you are siding not only with fascists, but you're also siding with somebody who greenlit a 21st century Holocaust. And so if you can expound on that just a little bit more, especially in the complicity of not just the Biden administration, but the Trump administration as well, because anybody who talks about wanting true peace, you're never really going to get it through either one of the blue fascist party or the red fascist party.
Because all of our money, all of our taxes, I tell people every time you buy a taco from Taco Bell, you might as well be putting a bullet in an IOF soldier's gun that's going to unalive an innocent child. All of our universities, all of our taxes go to Zionism. We pay for their health care. We pay for their free education. We pay to keep their houseless community members off the street, their drug programs, from people around the world's right to return. We pay for all of that. This is how I get people from the left and the right, especially Republicans, because I grew up in Alabama. I can be like, hey, man, I'm an American too. That your taxes aren't going to what you want them to go to. What about our veterans? I care about our veterans. Let's send some of that money to keep them off the street, or to pay for their programs that they need, our health care, our children's education. Our rent is going sky high, as well as our groceries, and it's all boils down to one reason: because we'd rather unalive innocent, I gotta say unalive because of TikTok, we'd rather kill innocent people overseas, innocent children, that even care about our own people. And what does that really say? What does that really say about both parties there?
Yeah, it puts into question, do you really value life? For the people who are conservative, who talk about the pro-life, I question you and your values when it comes to saying you're pro-life. Those who are liberal, you talk about the rights of women and people who are LGBTQ, but yet you're willing to side with the group that's killing women and LGBTQ people in Palestine left and right. And please do not come here and try to pink wash, because the thing is that there are literally people who are LGBTQ who exist in Palestine. and they are, they're being murdered not by their own, but they're being murdered by the IOF that's literally bombing them to smithereens in Gaza. And it's not just in Gaza; it's in Nablus and Rafah, and they're being tormented day and night in the West Bank. They're facing things like apartheid, which is basically another form of Jim Crow, basically, just like we had here in the United States, especially with my people. And so when you see this, a lot of times people they're floored when they find this out. Like, how can this be when you had these group of people who have been oppressed? But the thing is, it's like, it's not all of them. It's really just a small subset of Zionists that are trying to do the settler colonial project that is Israel.
For the past 77 years, 77 plus.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of people think, oh, it happened with just that date, and a lot of people think that this has been going on for thousands of years. Like,
yeah,
no, it hasn't.
No, in fact, not to make light of this, but it kind of reminds me of, in the past, before, 1948, Jews, Muslims, Arabs, Christians, they all lived in harmony until the Fire Nation came. It's just
Avatar.
so, it was like until the Zionists came and decided that they wanted to take all the land for themselves, when in reality they were all living in harmony before that. So you can't say that it was strife the entire time, because there wasn't. I'd like to get. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I believe that most Christians are being used as pawns, and they've been manipulated to think that they really care about them, for one. I don't believe that they do. And if Christians really cared, they would be upset that they bombed the oldest church in world history. They would be upset that they were bombing Baptist hospitals and UN workers. Hospitals in general are starving innocent children. It just make sense,
Yeah. This also kind of goes into one of the things I wanted to ask you, because there was a huge influx of people who were in support of Palestine, especially during the 2024 elections. I'm not going to say it is, but it feels like it turned into a fad for some people. It was just a cool thing to do, to be anti-Zionist, but it feels like those numbers have cooled off. What is your opinion on that?
I agree. I think a lot of us have seen some of those videos too. I don't want to single out any group of people or anything, but I've seen people being like, "Oh, well, I guess since the Republicans won, y'all didn't get our back, so we're not going to get your back anymore. I'm going to go back and start having my Starbucks and McDonald's and not care anymore because you didn't care." That blows my mind, because what we really need to understand is that all the oppressed people in the world are connected, and if we all stood together against the oppressors, the colonizers, we would have a wonderful world to live in for everybody.
Yeah. Really, solidarity shouldn't have to require, certain conditions. I mean, wrong is wrong, right?
And that's gone both ways too. Even in the movement for Palestine, I've had to talk to a lot of people being like, they said like, oh, they don't. Some people might say, oh, they don't think an LGBTQ flag that's mixed with Palestine belongs in the movement. I'm like, I completely disagree. We just talked about that, because they are oppressed, and they're oppressed in Palestine too, and not from their own people, but from the Zionist regime. So we are all very much connected, and I truly believe that humanity's last stand is with Gaza and with Palestine, and if we let Gaza fall, I don't know if there's redemption for humanity after that point.
Yeah.
It hurts my heart. It really does.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of redemption, or the faux redemption, I would say, I want to get your reaction to this. You probably saw it already, but I want to get your reaction to this. And it's everybody's favorite politician, AOC. And this is her at a town hall. And I just want to get your reaction to this. And if you need me to pause, please let me know. But otherwise, we'll just talk about it on the other side.
We are to defend and you know what you're doing about the genocide in Gaza.
Your thoughts?
I think our politicians are really exposing themselves, showing that they don't care about their constituents. They don't care about what we care about, the people that vote for them. Sanders, Bernie Sanders did it as well at his rally recently, where someone pulled out a Palestine flag, and he just chose to completely ignore it, even when the entire crowd started of almost 10,000 people started chanting "Free Palestine." Just ignore it and move on, because AOC, Bernie, they've all received money from AIPAC, from Zionism. They're complicit. We can't. I don't believe we can believe anything that they have to say at this point. And I think we need to replace every politician that has taken bribery money from AIPAC, that has dual citizenship, because the majority of our politicians have dual citizenship. I can give you one guess to where. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think we need to have politicians and senators that are loyal to America, and not to foreign countries, especially ones that don't care about us and that call ourselves their ally and don't actually help us in any way.
Yeah, that's a really good point. A lot of people who are saying that they stand with Israel, there seems to be a disconnect between their loyalty to American citizens versus to Israelis. And even when it comes down to people like Donald Trump and Joe Biden, it seems like they are more about making Israel great again instead of America. And so it just goes to show that a lot of these people are really, when it comes to actually doing anything for the United States, really it's they don't want to do anything what's best for us, because that means that it would actually uh, take away the power that they have in the region in order to oversee, not just the taking away of land, but also resources on behalf of the big corporations. Really, the corporate power is the one that really wants us to stay in Gaza. They want us, they want the United States to keep Israel alive, to maintain control of not just what's happening in Palestine, but also in Lebanon, Iran, Yemen. So, of course,
Sudan. Yep.
Yeah. And so this is exactly what a lot of them are saying. I also want to share this as well because this is the perfect representation, and this may bring you back to the DNC protest last year. So this is a perfect encapsulation of even a lot of the Democrats that were in the AOC town hall. They were telling basically the young lady who was calling AOC out to sit down and be quiet. And they just didn't want to hear, because a lot of times what they'll do is they will say, well, that's the best shot that we have. And I'm like, somebody supporting a genocide is the best shot that we have?
No, thank you.
And I just want to address something. And I will be calling out a name really quick, because I think this is important. So as of late, somebody like Ethan Klein was debating Hassan Piker. And Hassan Piker was being very adversarial to Ethan Klein, especially because he's a Zionist. My question is, where was that same energy when he was interviewing AOC and Bernie Sanders? That's my question. Because I certainly didn't see it. Yeah. A lot of times
Always
people
when they interview someone.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Like,
I was gonna say that they always kind of do that, right?
Yeah, like where was that same energy that he gave to Ethan Klein? And on top of it, AOC is complicit in voting for, the resolution that equates anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. And so even though she may not necessarily be getting IPAC money, she's following in the footsteps of people who do. So therefore, she is getting support from IPAC via proxy. So is she really any better than a Hakeem Jeffries? That's my question.
Exactly.
It's just that in itself. As far as your situation, and I want to go back to that. Your situation really is a free speech issue, and I think it's important that we highlight how important this is, because if people like you don't have a voice within our country to say, loudly about what is wrong, then do we have freedom at all? What is your take on that?
I completely agree, because free speech, I believe it's a complete illusion here in America, and they use it to keep us complicit. I can be a prime example of that. Another really good example of that. I mean, no one can really say otherwise once I use this example, because they are trying to pass laws to make it illegal to boycott Israel. What does that mean? If I don't stop at a Chevron once a month, that I'm going to get a fine, that I might face charges, or I have to you got to go to Taco Bell, you got to go to McDonald's and Starbucks again, y'all. You can't boycott anymore. Well, they're going to tell us what we have to eat and buy. Where's the freedom of speech? Freedom of speech is an illusion, because once you say something that they don't like, they try and take it away. You can look at our college students around the country right now. You can look at ICE agents picking up American citizens, even, or people with papers, or just the way that they're acting. Because I believe no human is illegal, especially on stolen land. But yeah, it's time to stand up and fight back, because they're going to take until they're going to see how much they can take, because no one ever gives up power easily.
Mm-hmm. And just a question as to what is the best solution in your mind to fight against this? Like, what is some of the contingencies that we should have in place in order to continue to fight this system? What are some of the solutions in your mind that would best help us to be able to fight not just liberation for Palestinians, but liberation for all oppressed people?
We're gonna. It all boils down to standing up against Zionism, fascism, colonialism, being anti-racist, knowing the history, teaching real history in schools about what's been going on, because we've come to learn, especially even through this movement, some really important things in history that we've just been completely lied to about, because the colonizers are the ones that write the history books, and they don't want to make themselves look bad. You know what I mean? So the world and our history, even America's history, is all based off a lie, and it's time for us to wake up, um, and to stand together. I think community is the only way forward through here, because they don't want us to have community. They want us to be reliant on corporations. They want us to have a job that we have to go to and work all the time and not have time for our families, to just barely get enough to buy food and maybe go on a vacation every now and then and pay your rent. And I don't think that's a life, a very good life. I think we can have so much better. I really do. And I think we can, if we stand together, we can change the world.
Yeah. And what steps would involve that in your mind?
Whew, that's a hard one. Coming together, community, coming up with ideas together. I mean, I do my TikTok show for the families of Gaza just to try and make a difference in their life. Even if I don't able to get them coins or gift, some people say it makes them happy to be there. It helps them get away from the dark and despair in their own life. And I believe that we need to, like I said, even work on replacing politicians that aren't loyal to America, and uniting movements is a big part too. Uniting movements.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the best of planners, but I'm a great at putting things into action. So if anybody has ideas.
Yeah, and we need all different types. One of the things that I try to encourage people to do, especially if you are trying to focus on uh, alleviating the oppression against marginalized people around the world, is to do what we call things like mutual aid, building dual power, building community. And this can be done by coming together with your community to make sure that the material needs and conditions of your community members are met. Now, you're doing this for Palestinians as well, which is great. Also, being able to build that solidarity with your fellow neighbors so that you guys can also basically fight the empire from the inside. This is some of the things that I try to encourage people to do as much as possible. You have mutual aid that's done in regards to, mutual aid as far as feeding people or making sure people have health care, even in small things like, first aid. You have, delivering toiletries and delivering clothes, things like that. Offering services if you're good at computers that you can help your neighbors out in that way. But getting to know the people who are around you so that you can be able to build that community, and then you can move together in order to establish something. This is really modeled after what the Black Panther Party did here in the United States, and with the Young Lords, the Young Patriots, the Brown Berets. And so a lot of them, they did this, and that's what made them effective. And so if anybody who knows history would know that the Black Panther Party actually were very integral into building solidarity with the Palestinians as well. There's a famous picture there's a famous picture of Huey P. Newton standing with Palestinians. So that's just something, that I try to encourage people to do is almost like a multi-pronged approach. It's like, yes, you support the Palestinians and all the other different oppressed peoples, but you do it through also building community here at home so that you can wrestle away the power from the outside, from the oligarchs, from the billionaires, from the duopoly. And so I think that's the ways forward for us.
I can add on to that and say that, like, especially when it comes to the people of Palestine, they want us to hate each other in the interest of their wars. Little did they know that not only were we going to become friends along the way, but we'll actually become family, and they teach us how to live our life the right way, and that's why they want to get rid of them. It's like the last stand against capitalism right there, like one of the last stands. They want it gone, and we've also just made community and friends along the way from around the world that support the oppressed people of the world, that support Palestine, and it's become a beautiful thing through a horrific time in humanity, you know.
Yeah, definitely,
And that's one of
definitely.
the reasons they want to take away TikTok. That's another thing for freedom of speech. You know, it's constantly on the board if they're going to take it away.
Yeah. And the funny part is that, it was one of the people who had established that was actually Donald Trump. You know, he established that in the beginning, and he tried to continue to help take TikTok away as well. So it's been quite the ordeal. And now he's like, "Oh, I'm going to save TikTok." It's like, no, you were the one that put him in danger in the first place. What are you talking about?
He also said he was going to save Gaza, and a lot of people voted for him, including Muslim people, thinking that it was their best choice. And look what's happened. They lie to everybody. That's all they do. It's just lies, all the time.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So as far as what you have coming up next, where can they find you? Where can people connect with you? How can people support you as you're going through this trial as well?
If anybody has TikTok, please follow me there. I do a daily morning show to support the families of Gaza, as well as live stream protests, raising funds and awareness that go all right back towards the families. Because I truly believe this is the most important thing we can do with our time in this part of human history is feed hungry people, because it's an act of resistance. And so you can find me on TikTok. They banned my first two accounts because, freedom of speech. But it's SR for Santa Rosa SR protest Stevo right there. But it's number 3 on TikTok, and it's just SR protest Stevo on Instagram as well. And I
Okay.
would love if people could support families. Like that's all I've used this platform for, and the arrest to spread more awareness and invite more people to support families so that they can hopefully survive a little longer.
All right. Steve-O, it was a privilege. It was an honor to have you. I'm wishing you massive success in this trial, and so that you can continue to keep up the fight and, fighting for different oppressed people around the world. And thank you so very much for doing what you do.
Hey, I salute you, sir. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It was an honor, and much respect to you.
All right.
And free
Thank you so
Palestine,
much.
of course.
Yep, definitely.
Have a
I'll
good
catch
one.
you later. All right. Bye-bye. All right, everybody. Thank you so very much. That was Steve-O. Really just showing that even though he is being targeted by the criminal justice system, the yearning for wanting to have real justice around the world is still a fire that burns within him. And I hope that this was inspiring for many of you to be able to see, so that, you guys can also continue to fight in any way that you possibly can for different oppressed peoples. Of course, you have the Palestinians. You have people that are, in places like Tigray, Congo, Sudan, Haiti. You have oppressed people here in the United States. You have just the LGBTQ people. You have us Black Americans that are constantly being oppressed as well, right? Just see that, that GoFundMe, that Gifts and Go, that woman did for calling a little Black boy the N-word. And, we still have to deal with the hatred and vitriol here in this country. Not just in criminal justice reform, not just in the criminal justice system, but also in the medical system, things like that. So it's many different groups of us that are marginalized, and continue to stand with us when it comes to the suppression of not just our human rights, but the human rights of many other peoples around the world. So, yeah, thank you so very much, Steve-O, for joining. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and give a like to the stream. We appreciate it very much. We're going to do a shout out to the patrons, and then we will get some comments, and then we'll head on out. All right. So thank you very much to everybody. So I checked Rumble already. We will go into the YouTube chats and say our hellos, our salutations in a second. Let me go to the patrons. Let's give them a shout out. So if you guys want to know, here are the tiers. All right. So we have patrons on Patreon. Thank you so much. Without you guys, there would be no Jaybefaunt channel. So here are the tiers. We have Mega Jaybefaunters, Super Duper Jaybefaunters, Super Jaybefaunters, Jaybefaunters, Comrade, Solidarity, and JB members. And we want to welcome new members, Asma and Sari. Thank you so very much for becoming a member on Patreon. Without you guys, we would not be able to do this. Also, in addition to, and furthermore, just let you guys know, my channel is demonetized. So if you like to support the channel, you can support via Patreon or PayPal. So thank you very much there. Let's go into the comments and say hello. All right. Whew. We got it. So starting us off, we have CEB Applejack coming in saying, salute family. Good to see you, CEB. Nice to have you. We have Pamela coming in saying, Adu Allah Li Shab Palestine. Thank you very much. Roger, yep. Roger says, wait a minute, you said you weren't having a show today because you're still in Tampa. Yes, I was in Tampa. In fact, I didn't get home from Tampa until 1 hour before the show started. Yeah, it's been a long day. He says, you don't want me to watch your show? Well, too bad, Bucko. I'm going to watch your show to the end of time. Deal with it. Roger. Roger's been watching me. I know it feels like somebody's watching me, and I get no privacy. Oh. All right. Edward says, hi, Jaybefaunt. It is horrible that you have to look over your shoulders of potential Zionists and the cops to attack you for wanting peace. Our free speech is being violated. Yep, absolutely. So let's go into this. Let me see. Jacqueline says Steve-O is an inspiration to us all, especially with having a young, sick daughter. Yeah, it's like, you see that's what happens when you see yourself in other people, is that you see what other people are going through and you don't want other people to suffer. And so that's empathy, right? That's the beauty of it. And so let's continue on that train, the empathy train. Sean Miller says, salute. Thank you so very much for that. All right. Who else we have? GP talking about the cops, slave patrollers. Yes. Trying to quarter people in and take them out and put them in paddy wagons and eventually put them in prison so they can become slaves again. Yep. This is a good point. Jacqueline says anyone who might not claim to be a Zionist, but who take pro-Zionist money are Zionists by default. Agreed. Thank you very much for that. Edward says Zionism has nothing to do with Judaism. Most Jewish people are against the Zionists. Absolutely. I've seen many Jewish people who are saying that, look, we are a religion of peace and acceptance, especially to people who are foreigners. And if you read, if you read the Torah, right, which is basically the first 5 books of the Bible, it talks about how you were strangers in a foreign land. And so you should treat people who are foreign as if they are your neighbors. So that's really written in the Torah, but Zionists, they don't go by that. And a lot of Zionists claim to be Christian, and yet they don't follow what Jesus says either, because didn't he say you must love your neighbor as yourself? Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. They ain't following it, which means they're a bunch of fake ass Christians. Yeah, I said it. Any Zionist that's a Christian is a fake ass Christian. Go cry to your mama about it. I don't care. You're a fake ass Christian. And the Palestinians, oh yeah, they're the people that Jesus came from, by the way. Mm-hmm. And so now you want to murder, or you're in support, or you're keeping silence about the people who are being murdered, who are the same people that Jesus came out of. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe, just maybe, you need to reevaluate your humanity. Don't let me get into it. Oh, don't let me get into it with a bunch of fake ass Christians. Pamela says Britain's prime minister is paid by the Israel lobby. Oh, I believe it. Thank you. Grapentine says, please hit the like. Yes, thank you. Please hit the like. Appreciate it. Let me see. Colin says, JB, try to get Dr. Harriet Fraud from the Democracy at Work on the show to talk about psychology of fascism. That would be a very interesting conversation. I do not have her contact information. If I can get the contact information, then definitely I would love to have her on, especially talking about the psychology of fascism. That's right up my alley. So definitely. But yeah, Dr. Harriet Fried. Let me see. Who else? Ooh, Colin also says, I also got assaulted by a blue MAGA Zion Nazi at a congressional town hall with Representative Paul Tonko, New York, Congressional District 20. Cops did nothing but forcibly remove me. Of course they do. Because they stand with the people who have the power within this capitalist system. Whatever man says, even if politicians don't have dual citizenship, taking money from another country should be prosecutable. Yeah, I mean, what if there was a Chinese lobby? What if there was a Russian lobby? What if there was a Cuban lobby? What if there was a North Korean lobby? People will be all up in their arms, but they're okay with the Zionist lobby? There's not even a French lobby or an Italian lobby or a Japanese lobby. There's not even a Canadian lobby. It doesn't make no damn sense. Why do we have to have an Israeli lobby? Oh, gosh. Charles J. says, why I just learned recently that Hassan is Chink's nephew. I don't know, but yeah, it's true. That's his nephew. Let me see. Steve coming in saying, hey, hello, everybody. Good to see you, Steve. Stan with the Oppressed says, thank you for having Steve on. Thank you for being in the chat. Appreciate it. Let me see. Roger says, if he wants to know what to do, well, there's a reason why I got Taxpayers Against Genocide on RBN. Start suing. That's also a really good point. Like, look, hit them in their wallets. Hit them in a wallet. You know what I'm saying? Because ultimately, that's part of the lawfare that we could use to actually fight against this system. So, of course, Pat says justice for Palestine. All right. ACAB includes ICE and Border Patrol says, hey, everyone, good to see ya. All right. Jimmy coming in saying, hi, y'all. Good to see ya. And GP says, because they're the chosen people. Yeah. Yeah. Even anti-Zionist Jewish people would say it's like no, it's not that we're the chosen people. That still doesn't give us a right to take somebody else's land like that. That still doesn't. That's theft. That's theft. What does it say in the Mosaic Law? You must not covet another man's wife, another man's bull, another man's ass. Couldn't that also be you must not covet another man's land? Need I say more, right? Raj says the very last thing on DM, read everything before our ideas for future shows. Okay, I'll read that and then we'll head on out because this was just to be an abbreviated show because JB is tired, honey. JB is exhausted. All right, so let me share this. Plus, I want to eat some wings and lay my behind down. Yes, I said wings. I want some wings and lay down. Okay, so Roger says Shiloh and the Somali dude in professional wrestling. Don't believe it. I'm onto them. Phil Scott covered her sister. When I saw her, I recognized her as someone cosplaying welfare recipient, embodying the mentality of what she thinks how welfare recipient is. Elon taking away my food stamps, which means I had to get a job. I should not have to. The taxpayers are supposed to pay my way. When I saw that, I said this is propaganda against poor people pretending to be poor with a sense of entitlement, to reinforce people's stereotypical thoughts on their prejudices against the government helping the downtrodden. Interesting. I don't know too much about that story or that situation, but yeah. But yeah, they will have poor people say some really dumb stuff, and then next thing you know, it makes people go, see, this is why poor people, these broke people, they have a victim mentality, blah blah blah. When in reality, it's not the case. Is that no, the system really did screw us over, and the system now is trying to make a terrible mascot out of somebody just so that it will get people to look at them and say, and us pit us against one another, especially when it comes to those of us who are the most marginalized, especially those of us who are poor. But yeah, that's also a really good point, Roger. Roger's always on his feet. I'm gonna start calling you Twinkle Toes Flintstone. Those of you who are old enough, you know what I'm talking about. All right, everybody. So I'm going to head on out because, like I said, this is going to be a abbreviated show because JB is tired. JB I was in Tampa all day, and I need to. That's what I need to do. Anyways, so tune in this Thursday for RBN. It's going to be the RBN Roundtable. So you guys going to be able to watch us all come together like Voltron. And then also this Sunday, I will also be having on a guest on the JB show on RBN. Let me see, which is Mother's Day. Interesting. So I'm going to have Luke from Food Not Bombs joining me on Sunday. So that's going to be a great conversation. I cannot wait to have. So, of course, you guys can see me there at 1 p.m. Eastern. And then will be doing some readings this week to make sure that I catch up with readings so that you guys can also get that. I already read The Will of Change by Bell Hooks. Next is going to be Presidential by Margaret Kimberly, as well as Of Water in the Spirit. So we'll catch you guys up on those as well. So thank you very much to everybody for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you. Today was a day that I was worried, and then next thing you know, my worry actually turned into joy. So I'm glad. So with that being said, thank you so much to Steve-O for joining, and I cannot wait to hear that he's been exonerated. I just putting that out into the universe. Let's put it out into the universe so that it happens. All right, everybody. So like I always say, water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it, do all the things if you got them. Free Palestine, and recycle the black dog. I'll see you guys everywhere and nowhere. Bye-bye. Thank you so very much for watching my channel, and I deeply appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you wish to support the channel further, so I can keep bringing you content that is educational and informative, you can become a patron on patreon.com/Jaybefaunt. You can find that link in the pinned comment or in the description below. No matter what you give, you'll be supporting independent media and education that helps make the world better. Thank you so much, and you can watch more of my content here. Mwah. Forehead kisses, and have a beautiful day.